One mistake at 35,000 feet can change everything. The person flying your plane may have spent years just trying to get into that cockpit. Before he carried hundreds of passengers, he had to learn how to fly alone. And his first solo flight is the moment the instructor stops being able to save him. Then comes the day when the weather becomes the teacher. Thousands of flight hours later, the hardest decision may still be made in seconds. Because flying a plane is technical. Deciding when not to fly is psychological. The uniform gets better as the responsibility gets heavier. And eventually, hundreds of strangers trust him with their lives without ever knowing his name. This is what it really takes to become the person sitting in that seat.
If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Level 1. The Dreamer. It usually starts with one simple obsession: flying. At first, the cockpit looks like a dream. Then he discovers the dream comes with a very serious price tag, and suddenly the clouds are not the scariest part. The first challenge is proving you belong in the sky. Then comes the first lesson. The instructor says, "Relax." The student immediately forgets how to relax. But eventually, the airplane stops feeling like a machine. It starts feeling like something he understands. Level 2. The Student Pilot. Now the fun ends and the checklists begin. Every flight has a plan, and every plan has a backup plan. He learns that confidence is useful, but overconfidence is dangerous. Then comes the solo flight. For the first time, there is no instructor sitting beside him, just him, the airplane, and every lesson he remembers. And somehow, the airplane lands exactly where it should. That first landing feels better than any video game ever could. But a private pilot certificate is still nowhere near an airline cockpit. The real grind is just beginning. Level 3. The Commercial Pilot. Now flying stops being a hobby and becomes a career. The problem is that airlines don't hire dreams, they hire experience. So he starts collecting hours instead of followers. The cockpit gets smaller, the airplanes get older, and the lessons get harder. Some days flying feels like freedom. Other days it feels like studying for another exam that never ends. Eventually, the hours start adding up. Then the airline application finally becomes possible. But getting the interview is not the same as getting the seat. Level 4. The First Officer. Then, one day, the uniform arrives. He finally enters the airline cockpit and immediately discovers that the captain is not there to watch him learn slowly. Now every button has a procedure. Every call has a response, and every mistake becomes a lesson immediately. The cockpit suddenly feels much smaller. The passengers never see the pressure behind that door. They only see a smooth takeoff. They don't see the hundreds of decisions that made it smooth. Then comes the first bad weather flight. The passengers panic. The pilots go quieter. Because panic is loud, but professionalism is quiet. This is where a first officer starts becoming a real pilot. Level 5. The Experienced First Officer. Years of flying begin to change how he thinks. He starts seeing problems before they become emergencies. He learns that the best emergency is the one you prevent. The checklist becomes muscle memory, but he never treats it like a game. Because experience doesn't make the airplane less dangerous. It makes the pilot better at respecting the danger. Now he starts thinking about the left seat. The left seat means something very different. It means the final call now belongs to him. And suddenly, promotion feels less like a reward. It feels like a responsibility. Because now he is preparing to become the person everyone looks to. Level 6. The Airline Captain. Then the day finally comes. Captain. The same cockpit suddenly feels completely different because the final call now belongs to him. Delay the flight? Change the route? Turn around? Sometimes the smartest decision is admitting that the original plan was wrong. The passengers may never know, and that's the point. A great captain makes difficult decisions look boring. He doesn't need to look fearless. He needs to think clearly while everyone else can't. That's what the years were really buying. Not just flight hours. Judgment. Level 7. The Training Captain. At the top, some pilots stop learning and start teaching. Now he has to explain mistakes instead of simply avoiding them. He watches pilots react under pressure. Because knowing the answer isn't enough anymore, he has to teach someone else how to find it. Every trainee reminds him of himself, the nervous hands, the endless questions, and eventually the moment when everything clicks. That's when the teacher knows the student is ready. Level 8. The Aviation Leader. But some pilots eventually leave the cockpit without leaving aviation. Years of flight experience become years of decisions. Now he thinks about entire fleets instead of one aircraft. Weather, crews, maintenance, schedules, passengers, everything connects. The cockpit taught him how to control one flight. The career taught him how to think beyond the cockpit. And after thousands of flights, he finally understands what the job was really about. It was never just about learning to fly. It was about learning to carry the responsibility of everyone who trusted you.